guys, what's up and welcome back to another video. For the scent of the day, I still have my little root candle going, and this is the crisp linen one. And I actually went to the root candle factory, so I have plenty of these to go through. They've just amazed me ever since I've started burning them. And is it even a surprise anymore that I'm using this oil? This is from Shop Miss A, and this is the Energy Blend. And literally, ever since I started using this, I cannot stop. I'm definitely going back and stocking up on these because I don't think I can be without them, honestly. If you're new to my channel, then welcome. I would love if you took a moment and subscribed, and also hit that notification bell so you will never miss anything interesting that I do post. And also, this is just a reminder that I do upload every single day on Instagram and on Reddit. So if you're active on any of those platforms and if you're a person that likes updated content, be sure to go follow me over in there. So guys, be honest with me. Does it surprise you at all that we're doing a tutorial and a review on a palette today? It doesn't surprise me in the least bit because it's Sunday and that's what we do around here. So let me introduce you to this week's palette, and it is from Wander Beauty. And this is called the Wanderess Escape Palette. And I did receive this in my base BoxyCharm this month. And here's a little secret that I'm gonna let you in on. When I first posted my original typed up written review on this and my original Saturday pictorial, I completely butchered the spelling of this palette. I forgot the extra E in the name, so I will never forget that again. But to be completely fair, the word wanderess isn't a word that I really use in everyday life, so, you know, I'll just blame it on that. So this is the color story that we're going to be working with today. It's basically a neutral palette with a pop of blue, and we've seen this in plenty palettes over the course of a few years now. And this one, right off the bat, doesn't remind me of anything significantly different. You guys know that I'm always about a blue shadow though, so that does appeal to me. And the look that we're going to be creating with this today is called a striped halo eye. And I thought it would just be a really fun look to showcase a bunch of these different colors that are in this palette. So enough with the talking, let's get into the doing. We're going to start with the tutorial, and then the second half of this video will be the actual palette review. So if you're interested in hearing the story about this palette and my opinion of it, then make sure you stay tuned for the second half of this video. Guys, welcome to part one of this video, which is the actual tutorial using this palette. And like always, we're going to start off with the prep steps. Now, sometimes I do this off camera when I actually apply my makeup, but I didn't do that today, so we're going to do it together. So for prep, I always do my basic eyeshadow primer, and then I always apply my tight line. And sometimes I switch the products up, sometimes I use my favorites. It all just depends on what I'm feeling for that day. And today is a day that I'm going in with my Revlon Candid concealer for my eye base. So all I do for this is I just dot it onto the eye area. I probably put on an excessive amount. You probably don't need this much, but I just like to put on a lot. And then I just take whatever brush I feel like using and give that a good blend so it covers the entire eye area all the way up to my brow. You want to make sure there's no parts that are balled up or creasing either. And in my experience, this concealer has never creased on me. And I have very creasy eyelids, so it's always worked very well for me for a really decent eye base. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and tight line between the upper lashes. And for that, I'm going to use this little double eyeliner from Kaylin Cosmetics. And I'm going to go in with a pencil side and just apply this in between my upper eyelashes. This is especially a really good step if you feel like you're going to put on false lashes. But even if you just put on basic mascara, it really gives you depth to the lash line and it makes your lashes look more full. You're going to want to set that same eyeliner, whatever color you decided to use, just set it aside because we're going to use that same exact color in our waterline when we get to that step in the process. Alright, so before we get started on the eyeshadow part, let me tell you something. So personally, I really like to create really crazy, different looking eye looks, and the palettes that I usually review allow me to do that, but my original look with this palette was going to be an oval blend out cut crease, and that's one of my favorite looks to do. And I sat there trying to do the same look that I've done plenty of other times, but I could not get this palette to work for me in that way. So I came to the realization that this palette isn't for a person like me who wants to do an intricate eye look. It's more for the person on the go who wants to just put a basic shadow in the crease and then something shiny on the lid. And if you're a person like that, this palette offers you plenty of options to kind of switch it up. But if you're looking to make gradients and extreme blending and stuff like that, you can't really do it with this kind of palette. So when I found that out, Then I switched my eye look to just a basic halo eye, and then I was able to get it to work. I tried to put a little bit of a different spin on it to make it a little bit more interesting. So that's what we're gonna do today. But as far as everything goes, this is just a really basic palette. For the first step, I'm gonna start out with 2 brushes, which is not uncommon for me, by the way. The first one I'm gonna start out with is a Jessup Firm Blender 244. And this is just a very tiny domed blending brush. And the second brush I'm going in with is from LaRouche, and this is an LR120 tapered blending brush. And this one just has a very flat top on the end of it. So with this first dome blending brush, I'm going into the shade Enchanted, and I'm gonna coat my brush with that shade and make sure it's really in there pretty well. And it's a great idea to ensure that you tap off the excess with this palette because you will get a lot of fallout. This is a very softly pressed palette, so there's a lot of kickback and a lot of fallout if you don't tap it off. So with this first shade on this blending brush, I'm literally just going to put this inside of my crease from inner corner to outer corner. Now, by using a dome blending brush, what this does is it ensures the majority of the pigment goes inside the crease, but it also makes sure the shade goes above your crease and also below it, so it kind of diffuses it for you. But now I'm going to take that flat tip brush and I'm going to go over the harsh line that we just did and really diffuse that, so it's a very soft blend. For my next brush, I'm going in with one of these little Daxstar detail brushes, and I always try to keep these linked down below in the description box because these are some of my most used brushes in all of my eyeshadow looks, and they really let you have control over your eyeshadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick up the shade called Overnight and just coat this onto my brush. And with this shade, what we're going to do is we're going to start putting this in the inner and outer corners. You're going to want to keep this right now below your crease line. Now for this next step, I like to take a very fluffy angled brush, and this one specifically is from Sigma, and this is the E70 medium angled shading brush. And it's really just a fluffy angled brush, and I'm going back into that shade called Overnight. And I'm putting some on my brush and definitely tapping this off. And for this, I like to keep my brush straight and put the middle of the brush onto the crease. And just run it over the crease the entire way. Now for these next steps, try to get the smallest brush that you can get. I'm using just a nail art brush, and I'm trying to invest in the Suva Beauty 620. That is my dream brush for this. Basically, I just have this little teeny eyeliner brush, and I also got a bowl of water because I'm gonna try to use these shades wet. So I'm gonna dip my brush inside the water and saturate it, make sure the bristles are soaking wet. And then my first shade I'm going into is called Sea Glass. What we're going to do with this is put this in that middle center part where we have no color and keep it focused towards the lash line. We're just going to do a little strip of it. Now likewise, in the same fashion, we're going to take the shade Daydream, which is the little peachy colored shade, and we're going to put this right on top of it and try to keep them the same size. Get my brush wet again, going back into that blue shade. Now I'm putting this one back on top of this peach shade. And lastly, I'm going into shade Daydream once more with a renewed wet brush, and I'm putting this one on top of the blue. Now to blend this out, I just take any old detail brush that's kind of flat and just kind of work at the edges a little bit just to make them blend into that brown a little bit more so they don't look so stark. Now, once you get done with all those stripes, we're going to go in with our waterline color, which is that same black liner that we used to tight line with earlier. And now would be a great time to dust off any and all fallout that you have on your face from this palette, which I have a bunch of it. Now we're going to attack the lower lash line. So for my base color on the lower lash line, I'm going to go in with the Bling Brushes E27, which is just a really large angled brush. And it kind of has some width to it too. And I'm going back into a shade called Overnight. And I'm putting this from the inner corner all the way to the outer edge. So now is the fun part. Go in with that same little tiny brush that you were using for the stripes on the upper lash line, dip it in some water, and then go right into that Sea Glass shade. Now for this part of the lower lash line, I always struggle because you really want to get under your lashes. So try to maneuver it under your lashes into the middle of your eye. And now for the finishing touch. Take your favorite inner corner brush, and mine's from e.l.f. and this is just their smudger brush. And I'm going to get this brush wet, and I'm going into the shade Moonlit, just because I really want the shade to pop. And I'm going to put it in my inner corner. As well as this little area of my brow bone right here.
I'm doing my own code in the tweet out. 5, 6, 6, 6, 7, 8.
So guys, that's the eye look. I'm gonna throw on some mascara and then we'll be back to talk about it. All right, I'm back. After poking myself in the eye with my mascara, I did not like that. As far as this look, what I usually do every week is I plan and draw out my eye looks, and I didn't do that with this one. This one is just kind of a spur of the moment thing, and I think it turned out all right for that kind of look. But this isn't something that I really anticipate doing all the time. I think it was nice for this palette, and I do think it showcases a lot of the special shades in here. But for the record, it's a really easy look to recreate, and it's both a mixture of smoky and bling, so I do like that aspect of it. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go take a short break, and then I will return and we'll get into part 2, which is the palette review. Hey guys, so I'm back from my break and I'm ready to tackle this review. If I'm reviewing a palette that has 10 or less shades, instead of popping up the swatches, I decided to do live swatches for the video. So like today, our palette has 10 shades, so I'm gonna show you the shades live swatched. If you prefer the actual pictures of swatches, just let me know in the comments and I'll switch it back. But I was just thinking for smaller palettes, it might be more helpful to see the shades live swatched. When I personally watch videos, I like live swatches better than pictures, but I mean, they both kind of end with the same result, so you just need to let me know. But anyway, back to business. This is our palette, and I already showed this to you earlier, but it is a cardboard packaging, and this isn't really reminiscent of the shadows inside, but it does really portray the branding well, so I'm not mad about the packaging. And inside you get a mid-sized mirror, and here are your 10 shadows. Now each shadow in here only weighs 0.75 grams, so they're really shallow pans, and you're getting a below average amount of eyeshadow per pan. Now for this palette, there are 3 different formulas in here. There's mattes, there's shimmers, and there are metallics. As far as the matte formula goes, I liked it well enough, but I wasn't able to form a gradient with it because these matte shadows are very, very close in tone. So they all kind of look the same when you blend them on the eye, and they're not very layerable. As far as the type of formula they are, they're more of a buildable formula, so they don't apply super pigmented while you put them on the eye. You just need to take your brush and kind of build them up a little bit for some more intensity. Now the shimmers in this palette are just a very standard shimmer formula. I like them well enough. I've used them both wet and dry, and I can appreciate their smoothness and their evenness upon application. But like my complaint with the mattes, they're all very, very similar in tone. Now the 2 foil metallics in here are right here and right here, one of which we use today. And these are my 2 favorite shadows in the entire palette. They are a little bit flaky upon touch, but when you use them, especially when you use them wet, they are very, very shiny and reflective. And with this formula, you can also use them dry, and they pick up just fine on a dry brush as well. Okay, now what we're gonna get into are the live swatches of this palette. So like I said, there are 10 shadows in here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and swatch them on my arm for you. This is one of the foiled metallics. This one that I'm swatching is a matte. This one's a shimmer. This one's a matte. It blends in with my skin tone. This one's a foil. This is a shimmer. The blue one is a shimmer. And this last one is a matte. So here's all the shades swatched out live. I hope that's helpful if you were trying to see how the colors applied a little bit. Now, like always, we're going to talk some facts about this palette. So upon research, Wander Beauty is a very community-based business. They really thrive on the community that they've built. So what they did is that each shadow in here, they put out names for it, and the community voted on the names, and they basically picked the names for the palette. So I really like that this is a community-driven palette, and they really interact well with their customers like that. According to the company, this formula is supposed to be crease-proof, but I haven't done an actual wear test on this formula, so I will be testing that in the future. This is a clean formula, it's cruelty-free, and it's not vegan. And now we're going to get into my favorite part of the video, which is the cost. If you went out and bought this palette as it is today, it would cost you $42. That breaks down to $4.20 per shade. And breaking that down a little bit further, it comes to $5.60 per gram. And comparing those prices to similar products on the market, this is a very high-end palette, and those prices do reflect that. Now we're going to get into the more opinion-based section of this video, which is my recommendation. Now, upon using this, like I did mention before, I did get a significant amount of kickback in the pan and a lot of fallout on my face. This is a very softly pressed formula. So far, as I've been using it, I didn't get any patching or I didn't get any creasing. But if you've been interested in purchasing this palette, I honestly just have a neutral opinion of it. I can't really recommend it, and I can't really not recommend it. Just because I came to the conclusion that this palette wasn't created for a consumer like me. This is just meant for a totally different consumer. Now, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I reached that conclusion, and you can make your own decision at the end if you fall into the category that this will be for someone like you. But my first reason is that you can't make any gradients with this palette, and there's no layering of shades. The shadows just don't allow for it, and everything in here is a mid-tone shade or lighter. There's no depth in here. So it's really difficult to form a more intricate eye look. My second reason is these shadows are very easy to blend. I didn't have any trouble whatsoever trying to blend out the shadows that I did use, so it's a very easily workable formula. And my third reason is that this palette does give you options for simple looks. If you're a person that likes to wear a matte shade in the crease and then something shiny on the eye, this palette gives you options for that. You can switch up your look every day if you're trying to do something like that. But to summarize everything, I am just not the right consumer for this type of palette. So guys, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. And if you did like it, please give me a giant thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, hit that thumbs down button. And until next time, bye.